Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Empty Cloud Monastery. So this morning we have another sutta study lined up for our enjoyment. So this morning we'll be looking at a somewhat well-known sutta, the Mettānisaṁsa Sutta, the discourse on the benefits of loving kindness meditation. So I'll start by paying homage to the Buddha and then going through the discourse. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ dhammāṃ saṅghāṃ namasāmi. So this is Anguttara Nikaya, chapter 11, sutta number 15, the Mettānisaṁsa Sutta. So in the title, so metta means, again, loving kindness or friendliness. And anisaṁsa means benefit or advantage. So this is the discourse on the benefits, the advantages of metta, practicing loving kindness, this mind state of friendliness. And metta meditation is one of the most commonly practiced meditation techniques in the Theravada Buddhist world. Actually, possibly the most common meditation. It's even more common than mindfulness of breathing. And this is because it's a really useful technique. Regardless of one's personality type. It's a meditation method which tends to produce pretty good results for most people. And it's, of course, it's especially important for dosacaritas, for people with a strong tendency towards aversion. It's especially important for aversion types to practice metta. But actually everybody, regardless of their personality type, can benefit from metta practice. And here the Buddha is going to list 11 reasons of why it's important to practice metta. So the Buddha starts off by introducing the topic. He says, Mettaya bhikkhave ceto vimutya asevataya bhavataya bahulikataya yanikataya vatukataya anuttitaya parichitaya susamaradaya ekadasana sangsa patikanka. So first off, he's saying he's talking about mettaya ceto vimutya. So this means when the liberation of mind through metta. So ceto vimutti. Ceto means mind, and vimutti means liberation. So this is interesting already in that the Buddha refers to the immersion in metta, so the practice of metta meditation, as a form of mental liberation. And this is because it generates a feeling of freedom and ease in the mind. When the mind is practicing metta, then it is free of aversion. It's free of any kind of negativity, any kind of hostility or irritation or annoyance or resentment. So that's a kind of liberation. It's a form of freedom. And especially for people who are prone to irritation, it's actually a very delightfully spacious feeling to have a mind which is free of irritation, which is liberated from any kind of negativity or aversion. So he says, Mettaya ceto vimutya asevataya. So asevita, this literally means to associate with or to spend time with. It comes from actually the word seva, which commonly these days is used to mean service, like doing services for others, helping out others. But the original meaning of this term is to spend time with, to associate with, to hang out with. So, for example, your friends are the people that you asevati, that you hang out with, that you spend a lot of time with. So the Buddha is saying, Mettaya ceto vimutya asevataya means you spend a lot of time with it. Next, bhavitaya. So this is bhavita means developed. It's related to the word bhavana. So bhavana is the present participle. Bhavita is the past participle. So it's just the two different tenses of the same word. So bhavana means developing or cultivating. Bhavita means developed or cultivated. So when the metta ceto vimutti is developed, cultivated, bhavita. The next word, bahuli kata. So bahuli means frequent or abundant. And kata means done or made. So bahuli kata, there's two ways of translating this. One is that you've done it a lot. So doing it frequently over and over again. And the other meaning is that one has made it abundant. One has made it very, very large and strong. And usually the way the Buddha uses this word seems to imply more the second meaning. So like you're doing metta, and it's not like you're just kind of half-heartedly like, oh, may they be happy. But actually you're really like, may they be happy. You're really trying to make that state of mind very strong and powerful and immense. This large, expanded mind of metta. So making it massive and abundant and pervasive. Next one, the next term he says is yani kataya. So yani means your vehicle, your way of moving. It's actually from the verb simply ya or yati. So the verb yati means to go. So your yani is what you use to get around. And of course, in the old days, everyone's vehicle was their feet. That was how we get around. These days, we have lots and lots of different vehicles and ways to get around. But the point is that this is what you use to go through your day. Your vehicle is what you use to navigate your day. So similarly, the Buddha is saying that we should make metta our vehicle. Metta should be our feet, should be our wheels. Metta should be our wings. It should be what we use to transport ourselves through our day. Vattu kataya, this is the next word. Vattu means ground or foundation. So the foundation of our mind should be metta. So the Buddha is saying that we should make the basic underlying condition of our mind metta, so that this is what the mind always returns to. It's what's underneath everything else that we're doing with the mind. So everything we do is always grounded in metta, founded upon metta. Next, anuttitaya. This means something which is well established. So it's from, actually it's related to the verb titati, which means to stand. And anu, which means along with or according or constantly. So anuttita means that you've constantly standing on it. So similarly to the idea of it being your foundation. So the mind is always settled on metta. It's always established on metta. Next word, parichitaya. So parichita means having practiced, or literally it means accumulated or collected. So the prefix pari means thorough or all around. And chitta, not to be confused with chitta. So chitta is mind. Chitta is the past participle of chinati. Chinati means to collect or gather. Or accumulate, stockpile. So parichitta means you've completely collected, gathered, accumulated, stockpiled metta. So it's hoarding metta. So constantly like building up metta in your mind, stockpiling metta in your mind. And susamaradaya, samarada means to undertake something or commit thoroughly to something. And the prefix su means well or good. So susamarada means you've undertaken it sincerely. You've really committed thoroughly to practicing metta. So the Buddha is saying, when you practice metta in this way, so again, this he's not just talking about this kind of half-hearted, like you sit down for 10 seconds and go, may everyone be happy, may everyone be happy. Is this over yet? Okay, good enough. But no, he's saying to really commit yourself thoroughly to practicing metta until it becomes the foundation of your mind, the bedrock of your mind. Commit to metta so that it becomes massive, enormous, spacious, so that it completely fills and floods the mind. So this is something which, through ongoing, persistent, and preferably long periods of meditation practice, then you can develop metta to the point where it completely permeates the mind, saturates the mind. So this is what the Buddha says has 11 benefits. So now I'll go through the 11 benefits that he talks about. So he says, Katame ekadasa, so which 11? The first one, sukhang supati. So sukha means pleasure or happiness, or ease. And supati means sleeps. So sukhang supati means you sleep pleasantly, you sleep happily, you sleep easily. So this is important. Many people have difficulty sleeping. But actually, if you practice metta, then sleep is easier for you. And even on those nights when maybe it's hard for you to fall asleep, well, you just practice metta. Actually, this is something which I do. So if there's a night when it's taking me a long time to fall asleep, then I'll just start doing metta. As I lie in my bed, I'll just start doing metta meditation. And one of two things will happen. Either it will help you go to sleep more easily, or you'll wind up just doing a bunch of metta meditation while lying down. So either way, you win. But generally speaking, this is true. If you do a lot of metta, then it's easier to sleep, and your sleep will be more refreshing, more nourishing, more pleasant. Similarly, the second benefit, the Buddha says, sukhang patibujjati. So the word patibujjati means to wake up again. So he's saying you'll go to sleep happy, you'll go to sleep easily, pleasantly, and you'll wake up happy. You'll wake up pleasantly and easily. So actually, I remember when I was younger, I would wake up grumpy every morning. I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, God, this is horrible. I hate this. And claw my way out of bed. It's like, oh. But actually, when your mind is full of metta, then you wake up. And the mind is already pleasant. The mind is already happy. The mind is already peaceful. You may still not want to get up. Maybe you didn't sleep as long as you'd like, or whatever. But there's still the sense of happiness and ease in the mind, because you wake up and your mind already has residual metta. And the third one, also related to sleeping, the Buddha says, na papakang supinang pasati. So na means not or no. Papaka means evil, or harmful, unpleasant. Supinang means a dream, and pasati means to see. So this one means you won't have any bad dreams. You won't have nightmares. So if you practice a lot of metta, then you won't have nightmares. So actually, I know one person comes to mind, actually, who I know who has a lot of nightmares. It's actually an ongoing problem for this person. They have nightmares very frequently. And this person is also a serious dosa charita, so a major hate type. And I keep telling them, you need to do more metta meditation. You need to do more metta meditation. It's always this resistance of like, oh, but I don't like metta. I don't want to do metta. It's so boring. I'd rather do other kinds of meditation. And it's like, well, okay, you don't have to do metta if you don't want to, but it would help you a lot. For example, you'd have fewer nightmares. Actually, if you committed to doing metta, then your nightmares might stop completely. So this is the third one. Napapikang supinang pasati. One will not have bad dreams. The next one, manusanang piyo hoti. So manusa is a human being. So manusanang means for human beings. Piyo means dear or beloved or affectionate. And hoti means one is or it is. So manusanang piyo hoti means one is loved by human beings. Other people, other humans they'll like you more. They'll appreciate your presence. They'll have affection for you. So this is actually one of the really clear benefits of metta meditation. It makes you a nicer person. So as you flood your mind with loving kindness, then it will start coming out in your facial expression. It will come out in your speech. It will come out in your actions. Everything that you say and do will be influenced by your state of mind. So when your state of mind is metta, then everything you say and do will be colored with metta. It will be saturated with metta. And so then the people around you will be like, oh, this person is so lovely. They're so nice. They're so kind. They're so gentle. It's such a delight to be with this person. So they'll like you more. The next one, amanu sanang piyo hoti. So this means non-humans will also like you. So a good example of this is animals. So people who really commit to doing a lot of metta, animals are much less afraid of them. Animals are much more willing to come up to them and interact with them. They're less likely to be scared or to run away. So one example of this is that in many monasteries, Buddhist monasteries, you'll see a lot of wildlife. So for example, here at this monastery, all the deer in the neighborhood tend to come and congregate near the monastery. And actually just a day or two ago, I was out walking in the neighborhood with Ayasoma, and there was a deer, and we walked like within like 1.5 meters of the deer, and the deer was not even slightly scared. It was just like, oh, here comes my friends, and there go my friends. So there's when our mind is full of loving friendliness, then both humans and non-humans will feel that. They pick up on that. So they feel safe around us. They don't feel threatened or disturbed by us. They feel a sense of safety and ease in our presence. And the next benefit, devata rakhanti. So this means the devas protect us. So the angels, spirits, celestial beings will protect us. And similarly, just as humans and animals like us more when we do metta, also the angels and spirits, they like us more as well. And they appreciate having people who are filled with metta in the world. So they'll watch over us. They'll take care of us. They'll protect us from harmful influences. So actually, if you want protection from angels and spirits, if you want them to come and protect you, just do a lot of metta practice. And they'll naturally be drawn to you. And of their own accord, they'll be interested in watching over you. So I know of people who they do all these complicated rituals to try to entice guardian angels to come and watch over them, but actually you don't need to do any complicated ritual. Just do metta meditation and they'll come of their own accord. The next benefit on the list, nasa agi va visang va sattang va kamati. This one gets a number of different interpretations. What it literally says, so nasa means not. So na asa means not 2-1 or 4-1. Agi, fire. Visang, poison. And sattang means a knife or a sword. And kamati means to enter or go or affect. So literally this says one will not be affected by fire, poison, and swords. So if you take this literally, then you might be inclined to do foolish things. But the way I interpret this actually is that if you do a lot of metta, then other people are much less likely to attack you. So they're much less likely to attack you with knives, swords, poisons, fire. If you're a nice person, then people don't want to harm you. They don't want to do anything harmful to you. So you're much less likely to be subject to attack from others. I've also heard this explained that fire, poison, and weapon are metaphors for greed, hatred, and delusion. But I've always found that a little bit of a stretch. It seems to be stretching well beyond the meaning of the Buddha's words here. And also some people think that this actually literally means that if your metta is strong enough, then you become invincible. But I also don't think that's what's meant here. So again, my interpretation of this is that when he says one will not be affected by fire, poison, and weapons, what he means is that other people are much less likely to come at us with these kinds of weapons. And also, again, the devas are watching over us. So the devas will also protect us from harmful experiences. And the next benefit the Buddha lists, he says, Tupatang chittang samadhyati. This means the mind will quickly enter samadhi. So the mind enters concentration quickly. So the mind collects and unifies and gathers together quickly. This is another huge benefit to practicing metta, is that it's a big support to our samadhi practice. So many people have a really hard time practicing samadhi. They have a hard time collecting and focusing and stabilizing the mind. But if you do metta practice, so metta practice has a way of clearing out a lot of the hindrances from the mind. It has a way of weakening or diminishing or even completely removing the hindrances, the 5 hindrances. And also, metta meditation is quite pleasant, and we tend to like to do things that are pleasant. It's easier to focus on pleasant things. So using metta, the feeling of metta as a meditation object, the mind is often more interested in focusing and settling on that meditation object. So that helps it to unify and focus. And also you can start with doing a few minutes of metta and then switch to another meditation method, such as mindfulness of the body. And you'll find that starting with a few minutes of metta helps to condition the mind for a swifter entry into samadhi. Then the next one the Buddha lists, he says, Mukhavanno vipasidati. So mukhavanno, mukha can mean face or mouth, depending on the context. It means either the mouth or the entire face. In this context, it appears to mean the face, because vanna, the word vanna can mean color or complexion, can mean caste, social class. But here it has the meaning of complexion. So mukha vanna means your facial complexion, the appearance of your face. And the word vipasidati means it becomes clear, bright, happy, joyful, serene. So what the Buddha is saying here is that if you do a lot of metta, then your facial appearance will become very bright and clear and peaceful, serene. So you'll look very happy and calm and peaceful because you actually are happy and calm and peaceful. But it will be showing on your face. It will be very visible and clear. So actually people who do a lot of metta, they tend to be quite lovely to look at. Whereas people with a lot of aversion, people who are grumpy and irritable, they're actually a little bit ugly. You don't really want to look at them. So if you practice a lot of metta, then you'll be more beautiful. Your face will be more attractive and appealing and pleasant. Next, the Buddha says, Asammulho kalang karoti. So sammulho means confused. So asammulho means not confused. And kalang karoti literally means one one does one's time. So this is an idiom in the Pāli language that means dying. So kalang karoti means you've done your time, you've completed your time, which means your lifetime. You've finished up this lifetime. So he's saying asamulho kalang karoti means one will die unconfused. So when the time of death comes, you won't be confused. Your mind will still be clear and steady and aware. And this is quite important. So often as people start to come close to the time of their death, then they get a bit deranged. Their mind tends to get very confused and unsteady. And then there's this very strong resistance to death. But if one does a lot of metta, then one can face one's death with dignity, with a peaceful and clear mind. And finally, the 11th benefit, the Buddha says, Uttari appati vidjanto brahma lokupago hoti. So uttari means higher or superior. Appati vidjanto means not attaining or not reaching. So uttari appati vidjanto means if you don't reach something superior or better, brahma lokupago. So Brahma Loka means the Brahma world, and Upago means arriving at. So he's saying if you don't reach something higher, then you'll arrive at the Brahma world. So in other words, the Buddha is saying that through practicing metta, you're creating the conditions to be reborn in the Brahma world. If you don't attain some kind of noble attainment. So if you don't become a stream enterer or higher, so one of the stages of awakening, then at the very least, you'll be reborn in a divine world, in the Brahma world. And then the Buddha concludes, Mettaya bhikkhave ceto vimutya asevataya bhavataya bahulikataya yanikataya vattukataya anuttitaya parichataya susamaradaya ime ekadasanisaṁsa patikanka. So again, when the liberation of mind through loving kindness is practiced, developed, magnified, made one's vehicle, made one's foundation, well established, collected, accumulated, focused upon, then one can expect these 11 benefits. That's the end of the sutta. So we can end with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I'll take any questions that you might have. So first off, hello to all the people joining in. So hello to Jayanta, Sud, Amaranta, Marielle, Marian, Morgana, Michael, Manas, Kiara, Ashok, Sangtong, Anthony, and other Anthony. We have 2 Anthonys this morning. Alicia, Juliana, Robert. So hello to all of you. And so let's see what questions we have. So Robert has a question, but it's off topic. So I recommend that you bring this to Monk Chat this evening. So this is a discourse about loving kindness meditation. So it's not the right time to ask about Mahasi meditation. That's a very different style of practice. So you can ask about that this evening during Monk Chat. And Sud has a question. Sud says, since the mind keeps holding on to something, although it is a wrong assumption, can one tell oneself, I am metta, I am loving kindness towards all beings, until one achieves metta ceto vimutti? Or is it not recommended since metta itself is impermanent? So ultimately, first off, you want to do what works. You want to do what's helpful. And it's also recognizing that the Buddhist path is composed of stepping stones that lead towards awakening. So you don't just jump immediately to the final destination, but rather you're gradually progressing the mind in the right direction. So if telling yourself, I am metta, I am loving kindness, if that helps you, to develop metta, then it's okay for the time being. So eventually you'll need to drop that self-identity at some point, but for the time being, it's good. Similarly, for example, yesterday I was talking about letting go of self-identities, but actually a self-identity like I am Buddhist. Well, yeah, of course you eventually need to let go of that, but for the time being, it's actually a really helpful self-identity because it helps to keep you focused on Buddhist practice. So yeah, you should still keep in the back of your mind that everything is impermanent, including metta. But if telling yourself, I am metta, if that's something that helps you to practice metta, then go for it. It's fine. And Anthony asks, what is your perspective on metta to oneself? Well, the Buddha said one should wish for all beings to be happy. The Buddha did not say one should wish for all beings except yourself. He said, wish for all beings to be happy. Sabbe satta sukhita hontu. May all beings be happy. May everyone be happy. So that includes yourself by default. So having metta to oneself, there's no problem there because you are included in all beings. And for some people, especially if they have a lot of self-hatred or self-disgust or guilt problems or anything like that, this has never been a big issue for me, but for some people it's a big issue. Then actually just wishing, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be safe. For some people that can be a very potent way of cultivating one's metta practice. But in my opinion, it's something which is to be done as a step along the way. So metta practice is universal. It's limitless. It's not limited to any one particular person or any particular category, but rather it's completely impartial and universal. So that's the kind of metta that we want to progress towards. And then we have a Facebook user. I don't know why it sometimes doesn't show the person's name, but sometimes it just says Facebook user. So Facebook user says, does metta also help in healing sad feeling apart from hatred? Yeah, it does. Yeah, so metta tends to produce a lot of happiness and joy, a sense of peacefulness in the mind. So metta also can help to cure sadness. Yeah. Robert says, I understand that throughout the day I can cultivate metta towards others, but how do we approach metta as a meditation on its own? Well, there's many different methods. One of the most simple and direct ways is to just start by repeating the phrase, may everyone be happy. Just repeat that in your mind over and over again. May everyone be happy. May everyone be happy. May everyone be happy. And really try to produce the corresponding emotion, the corresponding mind state. And as that mind state starts to manifest, then focus on that feeling of metta, that mind state of metta, and focus on making it as bright and strong and vast as possible. So this is a very direct way to practice metta. Other ways usually involve focusing on a particular person or a particular group of people as a way of getting started. So for example, thinking about your best friend or your mother or someone you really care about, and just thinking like, oh, may she be happy, may she be healthy, may she be safe. And often that's easier because you're starting with someone who you already have some metta for. So you're more reminding yourself of the metta that's already present in your mind so that you can become more familiar with what metta feels like. And as you become more familiar with what metta feels like, then you can focus on making that metta universal, unlimited. So Sud says, is there any downside to too much metta? It doesn't seem to be like there is one. And when it comes to protection, seems like the universe itself will support the metta practitioner. So is there any downside to too much metta? The only real downside is if you never cultivate any insight. Like if you just only do metta and nothing else, then what that does is it leads to rebirth in the Brahma world. So this is why the Buddha says, for example, in the Atthakkanagara Sutta, it says to practice metta, and then when the mind is completely focused and resolved upon metta, then perceive that metta as impermanent. And through that, you can recognize that everything is impermanent. And this leads to liberation of mind. So metta practice, if you're just only doing metta and that's it, then that's actually a problem because you won't attain awakening. You'll just stay in samsara. But if you do a bunch of metta and then perceive the metta as anicca, impermanent, anatta, impersonal, then that can lead to awakening. And yeah, I mean, as for the universe supporting the metta practitioner, well, for one thing, you're cultivating a lot of good karma, so that will protect you. And also, as mentioned, the devas will watch over you. Jay Kala says, could you speak a bit about how metta relates to sensual dispassion? Yeah, so metta is not a sensual experience. Metta is a completely inward experience. So you can cultivate so much happiness and joy through metta meditation that by comparison, sensual pleasures seem significantly less appealing. But it is commonly suggested that if one has very strong problems with sensual desire, and especially with sexual lust, then one should be careful when doing metta, because one can sometimes slip from doing actual metta into cultivating sensual desire. So the mind can kind of get off track a little bit, and you wind up cultivating sensual desire and lust. So you do need to watch out for that if you're prone to desire and lust. And if that is a problem, then it can be useful to do less metta and cultivate more insight meditation. And Free Spirit says, at times I have issues with metta meditation due to thinking about rebirth in a Brahma world. I'm concerned on how nice these worlds can be, that someone can lose focus on the Dhamma. Any thoughts? Yeah, so remember that the Buddha said Nibbana is the highest happiness. Nibbanang paramang sukhang. So the pleasure of full awakening far exceeds the pleasure of the Brahma worlds. So remind yourself of that. Remind yourself that there's a much more sublime and delightful goal than the Brahma world. And so remembering that, then don't forget to cultivate insight. Again, through anicca sanya, dukkha sanya, anatta sanya. So recognizing the three characteristics. And this will help keep you from getting lost in the Brahma world. So that's the last of the questions. So I'll go ahead and any questions? You have a question?
I do. I've always interpreted the line about not being harmed by fire, poison, or weapons as also, as you stated, and also that the mind is unshaken, even if one is attacked, similar to the sawing of the saw. Even if those things occur, if the mind is filled with metta, the mind isn't disturbed. I was just wondering your thoughts about that.
Yeah. I mean, that is something, is that when one's mind is full of metta, well, like in the Kakachupama Sutta, the simile of the saw, the Buddha says that even when bad bandits are cutting off your arms and legs, you can have a mind full of metta, where you're just wishing for them to be happy. So even in the most extreme situations of being physically maimed and brutalized by other people, you can still have a mind of metta. So that's actually another valid interpretation, is that even when other people are burning you or poisoning you or stabbing you, your mind can be so full of metta that it doesn't bother you, that your mind remains undisturbed and peaceful. So yeah, I think that's a valid interpretation.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah. So here's another question from online. Facebook user, and again, I don't know who this is or if it's even the same Facebook user as before. An anonymous Facebook user says, does wisdom come quickly by practicing metta and karuna than just by doing concentration of impermanence without practicing metta? It depends on the person. So different people have different temperaments, different abilities, and they get different levels of benefit from different kinds of practices. So there's no universal statement here. But I would say as a general rule, for most people, incorporating at least some metta meditation into one's meditation routine tends to help a lot. And usually people who try to do only insight meditation without doing any metta, they usually wind up being pretty intolerable. They tend to be, not very pleasant people. And that also then means that their meditation is not going to go very well. So if you try to do only insight without any metta practice, your meditation is probably not going to progress as quickly as it otherwise would. And you're also going to be pretty intolerable to the people around you. And that's the last of the questions. Looks like that's it. So this evening we have monk chat, so you can bring all of your other questions to monk chat and we'll answer them this evening. So for now we can end with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we'll see you next time.